right, let's jump in.
Live.
We'll see how this goes. So I hope we all know this is a strategic planning workshop, as we discussed. We sent you kind of a screen scrape of what the website has, plus the email was kind of outline the plan as it sits today. And I think the intent tonight is just to go over it. Unfortunately, Peter couldn't make it, but go over it, especially for the new people, and make sure that this fits what your expectations are for the plan. If you see anything that needs clarification, or you don't agree with, or we need to change, that's what this is about. So we need to revisit this, once a year, just to see if the plan needs to change. And then as we get in the budget, ideally your budget should support what your plan is trying to do. And obviously you can't do all this. So it's a prioritized. One year it might be something here that's most important. The next year it might be something else. So I guess with that, we'll just open it up. Anybody have anything that jumps out at them? I mean, what we can do tonight is just kind of go down through this pretty quickly and talk about what the plan looks like. And then if you have questions, maybe we'll just do it that way. And then if you have input or questions for any of that, we'll send it out there and kind of talk through it. Does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think we always start with a vision. And this, just as a reminder, this strategic plan was developed probably 4 years ago, and it took probably 3 years before that with the community input. We hired a consultant to help us get through this. So it took a while to get to this point. And it doesn't mean it's done. It just means we got to keep refreshing it. And one set of eyes looks at something and reads it and thinks something, and another set of eyes could be something completely different. So that's why if you don't agree with it, or if you don't understand what the intent is, we need to talk through it. So, and probably the most difficult thing we had, my colleagues that were on the council at that point, was just trying to come up with a vision. That's the hardest thing to do, talking about where, this body wants to see the community in 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, in a succinct and descriptive way. And you can imagine that went around and around and around and around,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of edits. So what we settled on was the vision is the safe, affordable, connected hometown for all. And I don't know if you can share this on the link or not. Maybe the screen scrape, do you have that file? And if I share it, they can't see it anyway. So we can just talk through it. So the safe, affordable, connected hometown for all was the vision that we settled on.
Can I ask what the connected's for?
It's a great question.
We changed it to connected.
Yeah, I mean, it's been multiple iterations. So let me ask you this. What does it mean to you when you read that? Because everybody's going to...
Internet. I mean,
Okay.
I don't.
No, that's
It was in there.
I mean,
It's
that's
in there.
absolutely fair.
Okay.
And I
I'm not
think...
saying it's wrong. I'm just
No,
asking.
that is one way that, people stay connected, absolutely. And Julie, and jump in if you remember the conversation, but it was trying to be all-encompassing about connecting people in the city. And by that could be social media or the internet, that type of thing. It could be events hosted by the city to try to get people out and connected together. It could be sidewalks so people can connect from one part of the city to the other, streets. So it really encompasses
Everything. Yeah.
everything.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, and so the question is, when we talk about that, internet connectivity, social media, completely different from infrastructure like sidewalks and streets. But it's a word that you can encompass everything if you want.
Internet was kind of in there, I remember, because at the time we were talking about the easement to Ottawa and possibly providing services down that way. And that was in our minds at the time. And I remember we definitely the word internet was tossed around as a part of it.
And I was also thinking that was around the time that RG Fiber was trying to kick up.
Yep.
So maybe it was part of the fiber in town and stuff like that, connecting the city.
It was definitely a part of it.
Okay.
Any suggestions on that?
I'm on the thesaurus for the word connected, seeing if there's any other word that maybe.
Well, this is how we did it. Yeah, what do you have?
Well, I know like when we did it for the rec, the vision statement, that was the longest,
Oh yeah, it's the hardest thing.
longest thing we had
It's
to
brutal.
decide
Yeah.
on. It was,
Right.
The only thing that would maybe make that word better is if you change it to interconnected to avoid any possible confusion. If you want to maybe focus it more on infrastructure and transparency and social media and
I think that was a big part of it too, was connected via transparency to the city, to the city.
yeah, the citizens felt the connection with their
Exactly.
yeah.
That was the other part of it as well.
So it is a safe, affordable, connected. Finish it for me.
Hometown for all. You have an AI create a new one?
No, heck, I'm no, no. You will never, ever see me do that. Vehemently opposed to it.
I know. Throw it in there and see what they come out.
Whole thing.
That's how they do it. That's how the robots take us
So
over.
this isn't a one-time event as well. As things come to you, as maybe citizens approach you with ideas, I mean, this thing changes at will. So whenever, the council wants to change it, we'll change it. So don't think that you have to come up with, your recommended changes tonight and it doesn't come up again for another year. So with that, we'll jump into the three focus areas of the plan. First one's municipal services, which I think is fairly straightforward. Economic development and quality of life. So those are pretty descriptive, broad, areas. So what we did then was, those are great, but how do you know how you're performing in those areas? So we came up with the performance areas that we really need to try to focus on with the, kind of the day-to-day things we do. So we'll go to municipal services and we'll talk about measurements as we go here. So the performance areas in municipal services were provide affordable, reliable, and sustainable services. Pretty straightforward. Pretty lofty goals. I'd be hard pressed to think anybody wouldn't want to try to do that as a plan. The second one's modernize infrastructure and maintain historical assets. I mean, sometimes those kind of oppose each other. If you've got to update some infrastructure and it's a historical asset, you got to be careful how you do that. Three is attract, develop, and retain quality staff. I think that's pretty descriptive. And then 4, increase transparency and community feedback. So let's talk about, these are obviously a little more granular and specific. I think what we wrestled with and continue to wrestle with is, how do you ever measure how you're doing? That is the challenge. So you can put any plan together, if you don't figure out how you're doing, it's really not doing you any good. So we spend a lot of time trying to figure that out. And I guess I'll just point to, so there's subjective, there's subjective performance feedback, and there's objective, right? And so some of these are subjective only. But as far as providing affordable, reliable, and sustainable services, we kind of picked the one we could objectively look at in 23. It was for the year 23, so it was 24. And that was, how reliable is the utility? Now, the electric utility was the only one that provided data to that. Trying to wrestle with, metrics on water and wastewater. How you would try to measure those affordable, reliable, sustainable services. But Jeff did come up with a very nice report of two things. One is uptime. So that measures how long the electric utility is providing electricity to the citizens, right? So the opposite of that is the downtime. So every time you have a downtime, so you measure downtime to the minute and put that into a report, and it is on the website. Although the link is broken, we need to go fix it. You can't get there when you click on it. So you can actually go look at the metrics around just total uptime by the city, and there's two ways that we could go down. One is Evergy. We can't control that, but we're still down, so we measure that, but we call that out as something that's out of our control. And then something within the city, if we go down, it's not Evergy, then that's obviously something we can control. So we do just make a distinguish between those two. And so the intent is to take a look at that and rerun those reports and measure how we're doing. Are we getting better? Are we getting worse? I mean, it's going to go one way or the other. The question is it significant? And that would probably lead to things about, okay, what do we need to do differently if it's going the wrong direction? So I believe Jeff's pulling that information together for 2025 would be the most recent year we'd have data for. I think what we need to decide as a council is if we want to make that, go ahead and put that back up, on the website, probably both years, so everybody has access to what that is. And I think you can even go in and click on, the feeder. It shows you how the city's broken down into different feeders. And if you know where, your address, what feeder is, you can click on that and see exactly how your home experienced that, that downtime / uptime. So I think it was a very good report. Some thoughts on refreshing that?
Yeah, I think putting them side by side so they can compare 23 to 25. I mean,
Yep.
hopefully we have gained ground in every area, and it will show that we have been improving. Is it perfect? Obviously not, but it would at least show improvement.
What do you guys think? Good with that?
Yeah, I think it's good. I like that.
And it may show we may have, in certain areas may have gotten worse. We need to identify why that is and what we could possibly do about that, right? So that's the intent of gathering the data, rather than anecdotally saying it feels like we're getting worse, so let's go do something. You can at least pinpoint it, and then you get into the budget conversation around, okay, here's what it would cost to get some level of improvement, whatever that may be, and then you decide that's important and you earmark budget for it. So,
But I think it would also maybe, I don't know if you put it in the strategic plan, but it would be nice to know if Jeff could tell us if there was any construction or anything going on during that year that would cause more outages or blinks like this year with them running that new line. This year's data would probably be skewed right now because there has been more blinks and stuff, but that was because we were actively working on the line, not because the line just failed. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
I would hopefully he has that. Yeah, I mean, I think he does. I think he talked about that.
okay.
He didn't talk about it. Steve did, or Pat did. Sorry, Pat did about what stringing that new line was causing. So I think we do have that data. As to your point, things that are kind of one-time events that had this level of impact that we shouldn't see again next year. So that you want to look into that and say, well, why did that get worse? And I think they could do that and explain it. If not, then it's like, how do we not make that happen again?
Yeah.
Anything else on that one? The next one is just modernize infrastructure and maintain historical assets. Really, the only way to measure that is to look at what you spent to do that on a year-to-year basis, and I don't think we're tracking that necessarily. But I do think it's happening. I just don't think we can quantify it. Any suggestions on that one? It's pretty straightforward. Attract, develop, and retain quality staff. I think that's pretty clear.
It's hard to do, though.
It's
That's the problem.
yeah, that is very hard to do. I think the metrics that we looked at, I don't think it's been published, but I think when we talk about it, the metrics we look at is really staff retention. What's our employee retention been, year over year? And I think it's been historically very good. You certainly don't want to go the other direction. So I don't think there's a measurement. I think we could certainly go back in and look at, you take retirements out of the equation, because that's going to happen anywhere. It's not a retention issue. It's just an age issue. So, we could, if we wanted to spend the time. I'm not suggesting that we do, but we could look at turnover, employee turnover, and see how that looks year over year.
Yeah, I think on that, the retention isn't that big of a problem as it is to attract new people. When we have 9 people leaving in the next 5 years, we need to figure out how to get people here to get trained and be able to work.
Yeah, that's a great point, Julie. I agree. And Russ, you can speak to this, but I think all the directors are well aware of it and have been out kind of, we've got open slots they've been working to fill and have filled some.
Correct.
But yeah, I think the question is what else can we be doing ahead of known needs to get there? And it becomes hard because it's a timing issue, right? It's hard to bring somebody on board well in advance of needing them because you don't want to go way past when you did and have a gap. That's very difficult to try to time that. And so when you have an opening, it's whoever's available and looking at that time, right? And so that's, I think the directors have kind of stepped up and said, we really need to probably get somebody in here before my planned retirement. But you look at the budget and you're like, there's no room in the budget to be
Proactive.
to be overstaffed and proactive, and it's a slippery slope. So I don't know how, unless you just value the continuity, then you have to bite the bullet and hire them ahead of time. And there's no guarantee that someone else doesn't leave or they leave. It's really hard. And fortunately, we haven't been in that situation to a point where it's really impacted service yet. I know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Russ, but I believe we've really pushed some people pretty hard, kind of in their daily work.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. We've we're running at what I consider a lean capacity. But we really need to be able to, as these next 2 years, as Julie mentioned, we'll have like 9 retirements. So there's a lot of institutional knowledge that's going out the door that it would be nice to get somebody in here to work within that department just to learn that stuff. But like you said, with where we are with the utilities budget, there's just not that extra space to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the rates. That's the only way you can do it. And it's a general fund for,
Police and
public works, police and fire. I mean, it's, so unless we can come up an idea on how to minimize that impact, I don't know any other way, then we're going to probably have to take our chances and start recruiting, a year to 6 months ahead, because it'll take that long. But, budget's coming up. If you guys want to earmark more in that regard, then that's the only way we're going to do it. And then, the develop and the retain, I mean, that's part of it. Cutting back really does, we've heard from the directors when we're talking about budget that first thing that goes usually is training, which is not every department, but when you have something that may or may not be critical at that point, it gets cut. And then you start getting behind the curve, and then all of a sudden you're way behind in training. Now you have a gap, right? So they have a tough job running these organizations. The last one in municipal services is increased transparency and community feedback. Comments about that one?
I'm guessing that pertains to rates increases potentially. Why would that be in municipal?
Just municipal service. Good question.
I think it was in the context of rates.
Put it there.
I put it there. Yeah. No, I think it was getting the mailers out, all different ways of communicating any kind of rate increases or anything like that. And I think that's why it was in there.
Yeah, and I think the broader conversation, if I remember, is part of our service is transparency for everything the city does, whether it's utilities or not. It's getting that word out about anything. It should be a service, to some regard, but specifically around the utilities. And we saw that we aren't perfect on that yet. Never will be. I think we shored that up with the communication policy, which I think will help with that. That in the feedback, I think we had some forums that we hadn't done before that provided direct feedback. And obviously feedback is welcome at any time, any means of communication from the public. So, I can honestly say from 6.5 years ago, when I joined the council, the transparency has dramatically increased. Just live streaming, the social media stuff, all these things that we didn't have, or when we did have it in the early, it was very, very unusable in a lot of cases. So I think that's gone a long way. Never transparent enough, I'm sure, but I'm pretty comfortable with the strides that have been made.
I mean, you used to not be able to watch these and hear us.
That's my point, is we'd have them, but it really wasn't useful.
Right.
And so we spent budget money to do this and get the technology in here to be able to do this. So that's my point, is like, that's something that we thought we really needed to do. We had earmarked a not insignificant amount of budget to go do that. So that's where a budget lines up with a priority in the plan.
I think some public forums would be a good idea. Not when there's a crisis, but just general to let people know that they're, we're accessible to them and their questions. instead of them having to come to a council meeting, which is kind of intimidating, I think, for a lot of people.
I know you launched one earlier this month, just a forum, government get together. I think it's a great idea. I think we just have to make it happen. And then I think you judge, how important those are by if anybody shows up. Yeah. I mean, you don't do them just to say you did them.
Right.
If no one's taking advantage of them, then it's obviously not a need. And when it does become a need, it's, to your point, is when there's an issue. And I think we should definitely do them then, ahead of that, if at all possible. But and that's, I think, it's something we can try to do.
Maybe quarterly. You think it may be quarterly?
We can try that.
I mean, if the first one
Yeah.
is good turnout, we could do quarterly. I mean, once every 3 months. Then we'd just have to decide, is a weekend better or is an evening better?
Right.
For more of the public. Because unfortunately, I know summer months, the weekends are very, very crazy for me. So
Yeah.
the weekend, I mean, a weeknight would probably might be easier for younger families
Yeah.
than the weekend. But
Yeah, it's just a recent one that I requested that we hold. I think that it would have been better suited towards the fall.
the fall,
Yeah, because, honestly, you're just in competition with ball games,
everything.
family events and
Yeah.
picnics, and I just think fall would be more what we'd aim for, maybe even an early winter.
Maybe get you a Maple Leaf booth right downtown, and you can just
Yeah,
feel
no,
all of
that'd
them right there.
Hey, we can make
People don't even live here. Just come up and
That's right.
we can make it a dunk tank for you.
don't take.
Yeah.
Then we
Hey,
could
I-
raise, we could raise funds that way.
Yeah, I've
like
been
that.
in a dump tank before. I can do it again. But I just think falls, like
Yeah.
you're right. Summer's just.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. People are traveling, and
Yeah. I mean, I was happy with who showed up. I thought it was very, very good that we talked to people. I can tell they respected it, liked it, but I just think that fall would be better. Just gets way too busy in the summer.
Maybe it's possibly three, and skip summer.
Mm-hmm.
One in the spring, one in the fall, or whatever. Start. I mean, if they're wildly successful, we can do more.
Maybe one in like fall, then January, to after Christmas, get all the holidays out, and then
Yeah, I think since we moved the rate changes to February, so maybe January or early February,
Yeah.
when we were talking about it, and I think we finalized it in the last meeting in February for all the rates. That might be early February, might be the time to have that, or late January.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then, budget season, it's the summertime, so it'd be hard to do that. Unless you did it in May.
I was gonna say early May might be your best.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that first week in May, because then you get into graduation season.
That's what I was
and all
thinking.
that stuff. So,
People start
and
traveling.
the end of sports seasons for the high school parents and junior high kids, and so maybe that first week in May might be a good one.
So yeah, that'd be a quarter apart,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe wait till October, November.
I think maybe just
Maybe that first week in November, that spreads it out a little bit.
Yeah. Because at that point, I think we're looking at rates to begin trying to figure out. So I think at that point, we talk about what, Baker Tilly kind of shares what they think the forecast's going to be, and we kind of have a sense for what that would do to the rate.
Mm-hmm.
I think in November timeframe, Russ, or is that, am I thinking about that right, or is it December?
I mean, it could be into November, but then the problem is you run into like Thanksgiving time frame.
Yeah.
You really want to do, I think first part of December would work out the best.
Yeah.
If we tried that.
you have to work around too. Like so, early November, in late October, every 2 years you're already going to be having hot topics being discussed
Because of
at
elections.
election time.
Election day, yeah.
So you might have a redundancy there,
Point.
but
Yeah. Um, so why don't we take it back to the strategic planning committee and kind of bring back a recommendation of maybe 2 dates to start with, and why those dates, about what would be going on those times. Does that work? Okay. All right, economic development. First performance area is attract and retain businesses and residents. Obviously, that drives our big part of our economics, our revenue, from property and sales tax, and utility, right? So that one's an easy one to put down there. The hard part is to figure out how you do that. And I know we've talked about a lot and continue to talk about is, we've opened up a pretty big footprint of new potential rooftops. I think that was the first step. We had to have the space to be able to attract new residents. We didn't before. And now we have what should last us for several years. So that's, I think, a huge step in getting more rooftops and people in here. Businesses is the other one. It's harder because we do have a limited footprint again. I mean, until we figure out where we could add businesses, it's just a matter of what's available, becomes available at any point in time, in the current, inventory. So that's one that's difficult for a city to dramatically change unless you've got land you're willing to put to a business park. Russ, anything you can think of? And
No, I mean, I think that, the council has made it clear, like with the RIDs.
Yep, great point.
Bringing the subdivisions in, as well as, the NRPs on, helping folks upgrade and doing tax abatement on those upgrades. I think that touches all facets of of bringing folks in. I think that, the thing is that we've always got to be trying to work with businesses and help bring businesses in. And like you said, with not having, right now, I think we have maybe 3 or 4 commercial parcels that are out there that could be developed. One of those 3 is in the works of being developed currently. So until we get more land from, as well as annex it, or if it gets developed, even still being in the county right next to us, that would truly be a benefit for us as well, because then that would help bring some more jobs. Right. And that's what would help keep people here. So.
yeah, I think great point. I think the RID, I don't think it's a coincidence that when the state changed the formula and moved it from a county population to a city population, and we had access to it, I think it's not a coincidence. That's why we had this development in these subdivisions. Literally, that's
no question.
no. We'd probably still be struggling to compete or get developers in here willing to do that without RID. So I think that was a huge move by the state, and I think we took advantage of it by being friendly to it and promoting it. So, and NRP is the same way. Anything else on that? Next one, increased tourism and exposure. That one, like all these, it's easy to say. It's very hard to put a program around something and try to make it happen.
I'm kind of concerned about this because we're decreasing the chamber's money in the budget, and that's part of what they're supposed to be doing. So I don't know how much we can do that they're not going to be able to do because they don't have the money to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this. I think Main Street was pretty active within the chamber, and I don't think it is anymore.
It's not at all.
I think it's
They got
done.
rid of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So that, I mean, I think there were some grants available through Main Street that we were kind of had our eye on, and I think there was a lot of other stuff going on when that got put in there as well. That there's just not.
What was the goal of the Main Street Chamber? I mean, do you all know? Because you can explain to me what the goal was for.
So yeah, Main Street just has a lot of. It's another channel for potential grant funding. It's another way to reorganize your downtown. Main Street focuses more on downtown, and Chambers kind of the whole town. And most cities that I called and spoke with before we were in Main Street, because you have to be accepted. The governor comes, she shakes your hand, tells you you're in Main Street. It's the whole thing. They focus more on building up downtowns, utilizing spaces, utilizing the spaces above spaces, and kind of giving you the resources and contacts around the country to kind of better improve that.
They're into improving the buildings and stuff.
Yeah, it's the problem with Main Street is that they have a pretty strict set way they like to do things. There's a lot of committees. I think there's 5 or 6 different subcommittees that have to have chairs, and it's just you have to have people involved, and it's hard to do in a small town. And a lot of it just overlapped with the chamber to the point that it's just the chamber. That's how I understand it.
Thank you.
The next one's revenue growth. Very straightforward. It's either property tax or sales tax, and you really don't look at revenue growth in the utility because should be a break-even entity, as well as the others are. But you only grow those utilities to the extent you need to provide that service. And if we're shrinking, that would be shrinking, right? You wouldn't be growing, that revenue would be shrinking. And, as more people go to solar, I mean, there's things out there that, could potentially reduce that revenue in, say, in the electric utility if people don't have the demand that they had years ago, and that's fine, right? Because we're, it's not for profit. It's to break even, and I think we're seeing that the demand is, as you add more houses and as you add more commercial space, that demand just goes up. Even if it is more energy efficient, you're going to continue to grow, as we've seen by the generation requests, trying to look ahead to where they think we're going to be. So sales tax, I mean, that's, there's some changes there that have been very helpful for us when all the delivery services now charge sales tax based on the destination. We didn't have that before. So all the Walmart and Amazon and all that now is like we had them in the city, right? So we get that sales tax. So that's been a tremendous revenue boost for us. And just roughly right now, as we talked about in budget, just thinking about the general fund, it's about half and half property tax to sales tax. And ideally, you get that sales tax to relieve the pressure on the property tax, and you don't have to grow that as much. And we've come a long way to where it's now about 50-50. So the more people we can bring in here, I mean, we've had ideas discussed about, making, business incubator places where people work from home now might have a place to go as opposed to going to the office and stay here. They might move here if they could do that, if the infrastructure is there, if there was a place they could go. So things like that, where you could attract people to move here because of the things we have to offer in kind of the new economy where work from home is still a big deal. And, you know, it's just a matter of adding those people adding rooftops, because you get property and then you get also revenue from utilities. So I think that one's pretty straightforward. Any questions on economic development? Okay. Last one's quality of life. This one's very subjective. It's the most subjective in
It says the word quality in it,
yes.
so it's subjective. There's a whole book on it about a motorcycle.
Right. And so the things we came up with, you know, is foster a family-oriented experience. You know, that's going to mean something different to almost every single person you talk to. You know, what is that family-oriented experience that they think is important? But that's the kind of feedback that we look for, and those things that we do. It's the 4th of July, it's Sullivan Square, you know, it's what the rec does in all those places.
And the lumberyard.
And the lumberyard.
They do a lot
Exactly.
of promoting different
Yeah.
kids things and adult things, and it's they're really
Yeah.
doing their part.
Exactly. Support residents' physical, mental, financial, and social quality of life, which is a mouthful, and it's very hard to measure that, or even. This is one I've always struggled with. I don't know. I'm sure how you could even quantify or what things you would put in those different elements, right?
Well, so when would we do the survey again? I don't remember when.
Well, we're going to get to that.
Okay, I thought maybe that might be on the horizon, but I think maybe that's where you answer some of it, obviously.
It is. I can't remember the questions they had specific to that. But that's a great point. We'll talk about that. But yeah, but I don't think we got a lot of feedback. You know, we got scores, but we didn't get a lot of feedback about what would you like to see to this question that we're not, you know, those types of things. So we can now start going, we need to do more of this, or we need to do this. But
We have to ask it differently.
yeah. Then connected city is the last one, and we talked a little bit about that earlier about what that means. It's everything you could possibly think of. Social, you know, infrastructure, transparency, and all that. So I'm glad you brought it up. You know, we talked about objective, kind of objective feedback or reports that we can get around things like reliability on a utility, right? Because we can measure it. It's measurable. We can look at it. That one's fairly easy. Most of these others are fairly subjective, especially the quality of life. And that was a big part of doing that survey 3 years ago. And there were a lot of questions that related to that. And what we haven't done yet, and we could potentially do, I've tried to get, I want to say,
Ryan.
right, yeah, what's the company?
ETC.
ETC. I mean, we got scores on every question. I mean, every question was scored. So at the end of that, and you guys probably all saw it, you could see the top 8 things where we had the lowest scores, kind of were bubbled up to, well, this is what we need to be focused on. We might need to pull that back out and have a relook at that, and just to refresh our memories and say, okay, this is what they told us. You know, how are we doing? Are we doing anything about it? But I also think you could take every one of those questions, or most of those questions, with a score on it, and put it in all these subjective questions, you know, subjective areas like foster a family-oriented experience. We got a score on multiple questions that are related just to that. So if we do the survey again, we're going to get another score on questions, not maybe the same, but they're going to be related to that, you know, that element. You're going to say, wait a second, our score went from this to this. If you don't do it that way, then you're just looking at this whole survey trying to get a gut feel for how we doing in this area. And there's really, it's trying to, you know, quantify a subjective response. But that a survey does, right? It gets subjective it gets quantifiable information to a subjective question.
Qualitative data.
Yeah. And then you can start tracking it. I think a little better than we currently have. And that would be the one thing I think we would probably need to do is to try to populate all those with what did the survey say?
Yeah. I almost feel like the survey should be all qualitative. Like, I don't know if there should be.
It is.
Yeah. Like, your quantitative stuff's pretty easy to.
Yeah, it's all qualitative.
Yeah.
They're not going to have.
How do you feel? I mean, we need words, emotions, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it pretty much. I don't think we asked anything around how many.
Is there a lot of 1 through 10 though? Like, how do you feel? Okay, yeah, that's good stuff because then you can quantify that.
You can. We got a score on the
It's been a while
average.
since I've looked at that survey.
We got a
Yeah.
raw score
Yeah.
on the average with the outliers, right? Kind of the distribution. So you didn't just get a single average. You got here's the distribution.
Right. That's
There's
right.
as many people on the lower end as the upper end. It looked like you were right in the middle. Well, you kind of want to know that.
If I remember right, they did a good job.
They did. They did a very good job. It was way more information than we had before. That's probably what we need to relook at it and just say, based on these results, and I know we came up with the 8 areas to work on based on the survey, and just make sure we didn't get busy and not focus on it. So that may be the next thing we need to probably look at. So the question is, when to do the next one? So the contract we signed, they for the one survey was $20,000, and they agreed to hold that pricing for 3 years. Meaning we'd have to do another one this year. Otherwise, you can do it anytime. The price not necessarily going to be the same.
But we're not locked into a contract. We can go find it on someone else.
Contract expired. Once they delivered it, and it was just they agreed to keep that pricing for 3 years. So I think that's the question we need to talk about is when do you think we need to do another survey?
Me personally, I look at, I'd like to see not being involved in this first survey, what our survey told us last time, and see how well we really met our strategic plan and goals.
Yep, I like that.
Compare that. Yeah, we missed this, we missed that, we're good there. And me personally, right now as a mayor, I'd really prefer to hold that 20,000 back right now.
Sure.
And not,
That's what I was going to say with budget cuts.
Oh, yeah.
bias going
Other
budget
ways,
cuts,
then
not-
I mean, it wouldn't be a good look
Yeah,
to do the budget cuts and then we're going to spend 20,000 on a
I
survey.
agree.
Yeah. Well,
So I mean, I think we're all in agreement on that. So would a survey be great? Yes. I mean, surveys bring you feedback, but
I'd also be. When was the last time we did that? Was it 3 years ago?
It was in the fall of 23.
23.
23. I mean, just with all the different AI approaches to things now and the algorithms, and I wonder how much cheaper this is and how many kids right out of college have stuff like this going on. And there's been a lot's changed in 3 years
Okay, yeah,
about how you acquire data.
yeah.
Well, I know the bulk of the cost though is administrating the survey.
and
Actually making the phone calls, doing the mailings. So they spent a lot of time trying to get the response rate up, and I can't remember what it was. It was less than 20%, which they thought was unbelievably good.
no, the recreation just did their plan again, and I know how they did it. How we did it was we brought in like 15 different small groups and kind of did the surveys that way. And
We did it too with that.
yeah, I think you guys were a part of it, probably. So
It was the same lady.
yeah.
If I think about it, I can remember.
But the small groups, and then you get the feedback of all the different small groups, get senior citizens, one group, just you can, and I know we even incentivized it for people to take the survey on Facebook, that for every 20 surveys, we gave out a gift card to a random one of them just to incentivize to try to fill it out. So, I mean, if we ever do it, that could be an approach too, but.
Is there any other funding available for that? Are there grants available to help cities do that? I wonder if
Not that I'm aware of right off the top of my head, but
I think Main Street did.
I think that the Main Street program through the chamber had that deal,
did.
that option.
I'm just now remembering it.
And I know not the last one, but 2 times ago when the recreation did it, they had a KU classroom do it.
There's another approach. Have maybe a Baker class.
So, and I know it was a lot cheaper because it was more of a classroom project. So I don't know if that would be, and that'd be more interconnecting with Baker and having more of a community tie there with that and working together. But
One thing I liked about the survey, they came up with the scores. They did all of that, and I think that's a good way to do it. Had another point, and I just lost it. Dang it.
Well, I mean, I think I know the direction you might have been going. Is that you're kind of tempted to say, well, could we do this in house? Well, then that would skew the results, and you would be you'd be biased.
I know what I was going to say.
Okay, good.
Is that they did everything. They sent out the surveys, and everything was, we had nothing to do with it.
Kept it anonymous. We saw no names.
Right.
Nothing.
as
So-
it should be.
Well,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
that costs money.
Right. I mean, that was the wall they put up to try to get, people. I'm not going to tell them what I think.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but people were hesitant. So I think that was a big part of it. And a lot of that time was spent trying to convince them that actually was true. Because I'm not sure people actually believed it. Yeah, you could.
That's probably why we got such good results.
I think it is.
Because they could feel free to say
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. I like your idea. I think it's important that we look at, we look at the last one. We probably should have been looking at that every year to see how we're doing against it. And then I'm okay with not doing anything this calendar year. It'll take us a while to find somebody, get it set up. The other good thing about that company, or those companies, is they have thousands of questions
You can pick.
that they've scientifically developed. You ask one in a positive way, you ask the same thing in a negative way, and see if the way they do those surveys is a science, and they come up, I think, more accurate results by if we just came up with questions to ask, it'd be a mess. So you definitely want to have somebody that's fairly knowledgeable about that and how to do a survey. But we'll try to find a time, maybe after budget season cools off, and we'll just have another workshop and we'll go over it and just kind of walk through it and go, okay, what do we think?
That's a good idea. Let's get the budget out of the way and
Yeah.
back off a little bit, and then we'll run at it again.
Yeah. Anything else? That's kind of walk through it.
My question is this something that we feel might be viable to open up to the community one night on our strategic plan? This is what we're doing. I know we talked about just meeting quarterly with people, but just one night, designate that.
I think it's what each one of them is. It's just open feedback, and that's that can be a part of your data acquisition. Is this is what we got from the surveys, and this is what we got from just opening it up to the community for this specific reason. And yeah, and you can theme it as big picture stuff.
Yeah. I think once we kind of figure where we are compared to, what we show, and might just kind of mention, hey, this is what we've thought, and where we, how we handle it and where we are, then, because someone made a comment to me about, and I will say this, they go, well, about making a comment. So every council session, you can come up and make a comment.
Yeah.
Every council session, it's open, so, okay, great, thanks. Yeah, that's reasonable.
But I think, like Julie said, though, I think coming to a council meeting and talking
Yeah.
is more intimidating. And
I agree with that.
being at that podium and interviewing, I mean, it's different. So I could see where a lot of our community members would not want to come stand in front of that podium and talk.
And if we're setting, like at the forum, if we're setting out among them, more of a discussion type thing than,
Yeah.
than being on the spotlight.
Yeah, I like that.
You know, council, whatever, and I know we discussed it before, just an avenue to where the community, we have a little bit closer contact with the community and kind of see what they got to say. You know, I agree with you. The summer was a bad time. I think fall, all that, kind of build those in. I think we'll be doing good. Don't you all?
Good. I'm glad we got through this and had this conversation. I think we kind of know what we want to do next steps and maybe make it more of a regular item on reviewing where we're at, you know, and I think that survey would be a great starting point.
And I think it's a good thing that holds us kind of accountable and gives us a measure if we at least visit it every year.
Yeah.
Just a short every year visit to see where we are, how we feel we're doing.
Yeah. And at some point it will probably change. It should change.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and there'll be rationale of why it's changed, why something's added or something's deleted or something's changed. So I don't think we should be afraid of changing it. Yeah, exactly. So, and if anybody comes with a better vision statement, bring it. All right. Russ, anything you want to add at the end?
No, I don't. I think it's very beneficial. I think it's good for the citizens to hear this and know that, you know, the council is working through this and making sure that we're holding ourselves accountable.
Yep, thanks. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.